Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gridiron 2023. Dr. Ron Poniewasz is joined by Professor Larry Kelly, and we are the Gridiron team. Larry is a member of the Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George law firm and also the sponsor of our show. He is the varsity baseball coach at Shenango High School. Larry, thank you for joining us once again, sir, as we are starting to move into this football season a little quickly.
Well, yeah, we are. And the Mohawk Warriors moved really quick last week, as did the Shannock Lancers. Neither of those two teams wasted any time in making a statement in the second week of the season. And we're going to talk about a guy here, Jay Wrona, Athlete of the Week. Wow. You talk about a player. Tell us about him. What did he do to earn Athlete of the Week?
Yeah, we have Athlete of the Week. That'll be in front of our topic and in our schedule. But first, as you mentioned, Jay Wrona, a 5'11", 165-pound quarterback, really had a great week last week for the Warriors. 10 of 15 passing for 189 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had touchdown passes to Bobby Fadden of 32, 29, and 5 yards. Blake Logan, 28 and 2 yards. He tied a school record with 5 touchdowns in the win. In the week previous, he threw 5 touchdowns in the loss to Union. So he's set the record and then equaled the record in consecutive weeks, Larry. So what a start to the season for Jay Wrona.
This kid is a tremendous athlete. We know what kind of football player he is. It's been obvious the last 2 weeks. We know what kind of basketball player he was because we watched him all year last year. And I personally watched him on the baseball field. I think we got him out one time in 2 games. The young man is a gifted athlete, and he's a golfer to boot. There's nothing he can't do. We throw around the word special way too often, but I think it's just so appropriate with this young man. When you can dominate in 4 different sports as a high school athlete, you deserve the moniker as being special. He's a big time player, and he is only as the season goes on. Normally it takes a week or 2 to warm up. He's only going to get better as we move forward this year.
Yeah, we're talking today, Tuesday. Earlier today, he had a golf match against Union. He fired a 36 in the golf match. So, you mentioned the 4 sports. That's another. It's hard to say from our point of view what's your best sport, because he dominates in golf. He dominates in football. He's a very good basketball player to the point where you could say he dominates in basketball and does the same in baseball. That would be an interesting question. What's your best sport, Jay?
Well, he's going to play Division I baseball at Youngstown University. So I would probably say baseball may be his best sport, but the others aren't too far behind. The young man can play some shortstop, and as I said, I think he was 7 for 8 against us last year, and he faced Zach Herb twice. So that's pretty special stuff when you can do that against one of the best pitchers in Western Pennsylvania. We didn't get him out too often.
Sure. The first week of the season, in addition to him setting a record with 5 touchdown passes, he also set a school record in that game against Union with 375 passing yards. So his name's up on the records board twice this season, and they've only played 2 games. So the 5 touchdowns and then the 375 yards through the air. For the year, Jay Wrona is 22 of 39 through the air for 538 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
And you have to mention Bobby Fadden. He caught 3 more touchdown passes this week. I think he had 3 last week. And this young man, who's only a sophomore and also a basketball and baseball player, I mean, he's going to have over 1,000 receiving yards before the year's over. I think he caught a couple bombs last week, didn't he? One for 70 yards. Mm-hmm. So he too is a very gifted athlete, multi-sport athlete, and Mohawk got a bright future both in hoops, in baseball, as well as football with these 2 young men around.
Just imagine if Jay Wrona was a sophomore was able to still have 2 years of eligibility left on this year with a guy named like Bobby Fadden as a teammate, not only in football, but basketball, and I believe in baseball. Imagine the problem that Mohawk would be for years to come with those two in the same grade.
Well, Mr. Wrona's a senior, isn't he, this year?
Mhm.
Well,
Right. That's
thank goodness for that. I only got to look at him one more year. But he's a player, and he's put up some big time numbers. And as I said, normally in football, it takes a week or two to get warmed up.
right.
I can't wait to see what he does the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Just imagine if he was a sophomore. All right, as a YSU baseball commit, as well as we touched on, Jay Wrona is our athlete of the week for his 10 of 15 effort through the air, 189 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 42-8 road win over Quaker Valley. We'll be back here next for our topic, and we'll do that next right here on Gridiron.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other, be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
We're back with you here on Gridiron for our topic segment. And this segment will be similar to last week's Discouraged or Encouraged, only it's going to be worded as door 1 or door 2. Larry, you get one selection. I know you just turned 70. We're not 5 years old anymore. You can't pick both of them.
Okay. Yeah. I was waiting for my gift from you. I figured I've been looking, for the Amazon delivery guy show up at my door, a gift from Ron Poniewasz. I haven't seen anything yet, but I know one's coming.
I got you the same thing you got me for my 50th birthday on July 2nd. Not a damn thing. All right, so that's
all right, Ronnie. Okay, touche.
Yeah. All right, door number 1 or door number 2? Door number 1, a team lost 5 top rushers, 2 top receivers. Or door number 2, a team has just 9 seniors and a junior and 21 underclassmen. Both teams sit at 1-1 through 2 weeks. Door 1, five lost rushers to graduation, 2 top receivers. Or door 2, 9 seniors and a junior on the team, or 21 underclassmen.
Well, I'm going to take door number 1. Normally, again, teams that win football games at the high school varsity level do so with upperclassmen. And having 21 underclassmen on the squad normally means you're probably a year or so away from doing really great things. So door number 1, who are the teams? You tell me.
Any guesses?
No, I have no clue.
Okay, you should know, definitely one team you should know. Neshannock is door number 1. They lost their top 5 rushers from last year. I know you're connected with the program, so that's why I figured you would sniff that one out. And Wilmington has just 9 seniors on the roster and a junior, and 21 underclassmen.
Well, here's what I know about Neshannock. And again, it's only because Coach Mangino, Matt Mangino, is a lawyer at my office. So, I asked him about it. What they have is a dominating offensive and defensive line. And Brian Cooper said as much in the newspaper column, where he indicated that Neshannock controlled the line of scrimmage. And they did in that game. And I've always said, Ronnie, and I say it always and time again, if you get the right guys blocking, you and I can run the ball. And Neshannock has the right guys up front. And both offensively and defensively, they controlled the line of scrimmage against Laurel. And that's why they won the game and jumped out to a really big lead, which surprised me. I thought Neshannock would win, but I didn't think that they would dominate the game like they did. Even though the statistics, if you just look at the statistics in that game, the statistics were pretty even, except that once it went to the mercy rule, the Shannon pulled their starters, and I think much of what Laurel did, they did late. But like Coach Cooper said, Laurel's playing guys on Friday night that normally would be playing in a JV game. You know, they're playing a lot of underclassmen, and that's difficult to do and to win at the varsity level.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one, door number one or door number two. This team lost all but one starter from a year ago, but they do boast a tough, traditionally, ground game. Or door number two, where this team has plenty of guys back, including an aerial assassin, and they have a tough passing game. So again, door number one is a team that lost all but one starter from a year ago, but they have a traditionally tough ground game. Or door number two, this team has brought back plenty of star players, including an aerial assassin, and they have a tough passing game. Both teams, Larry, are 1-1.
I want door number two. Again, you know, it sounds like to me, door number one is playing a lot of underclassmen, and it's very difficult to win at the varsity level without having experienced players. And sounds like door number two is bringing back a lot of players who now have experience, and there's no substitute for experience. Not in my coaching book, anyway.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any guesses on door number one and door number two? Which schools those are?
I can't guess on that. Door number one may be Wilmington again because their ground game is always good. Door number two, don't know. Could be Union, but they're not 1-1. They're 2-0.
Yeah. Door number one is Laurel.
Okay.
Had a tough ground game last several years. And door number two is Mohawk, the great passing game and aerial assassin at quarterback, Jay Wrona.
Well, again, Coach Cooper said that he's playing a lot of underclassmen. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, to borrow his line, some of these young men should be playing JV games and not on Friday night. And listen, I've coached for 25 years at the high school level, with rare exception. Freshmen and sophomores do not beat juniors and seniors, with rare exceptions. And, you know, Mohawk has just about everybody back. You know, the quarterback position in football is much like the point guard in basketball. That's the straw that stirs the drink. They have athletes, you know, to catch the ball and obviously are getting open, and they strike quickly. So, you know, they lose last week to Union, but that was a tremendous game, and it's no shame losing the opener to the Union Scotties because they too have everybody back. So, you know, I think Laurel, as the season goes along, is going to be a tougher out than they were Friday night because these young men will get experience. You know, Brian Cooper can coach them up. They run the ball, which I think is key to winning high school football games. I'm an old school guy. And, you know, so I think as the season progresses, they're going to get better.
Okay, last one. Door number one. This team has a lot of expectations and plenty of talent. Door number two is climbing the ladder of respectability. They've been making strides. So again, door number one, this program has a lot of expectations and plenty of talent. Door number two, this program is climbing the ladder of respectability, making strides. And in addition, these teams have met head to head this year.
Well, I went door number one. You know, I believe in expectations. I'm a big believer in getting your team to believe. And the higher the expectations, the better I like it. You know, I go into every season coaching. Well, let's start with Newcastle basketball. We went into every season with the expectation we were going to win the Whitfield Championship. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. In baseball, every year before the season starts, we practice the dog pound because it's our expectation that we're going to win a Whitfield Championship. So I like teams that have great expectations because normally they accomplish great things.
All right, and that is winning ticket on cashing the yes. Will Larry Kelly mentioned the Newcastle basketball program? So take your tickets to the window. You are a winner.
Well, why wouldn't I mention Newcastle basketball? I think that's the gold standard for basketball in the WPIL since Ralph Melendo's been there, and maybe before that when John Sarandria was there. So, I try to emulate what great coaches do. Much of what I do, I learned from watching Ralph, from watching John, and so yeah, I'm a Newcastle guy, Ronnie. I'm going to say it. So anyway, who's door number 1 and door number 2? The suspense is killing me.
Why wouldn't you mention Newcastle basketball? I don't know, because this is a football program, Larry. That's why you wouldn't mention them. It doesn't fit. It's round hole, square peg, or vice versa.
Well, you're talking about expectations. I told you what our expectations were every year.
All right, door number 1 and door number 2. Any guesses of who they were?
I can't. Door number 1 is who?
Union.
Okay. I picked the winner all 3 times, right? I got Union, I had Neshannock, and I had Mohawk. Those 3 teams are going to do pretty well as the season progresses. Door number 2?
Any guesses?
Maybe the Shenango Wildcats.
Well, remember, I said they've met already head-to-head this year.
Well, then I don't. Then who'd Union play last week? They played Elwood City, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elwood City,
right.
And I'm going to say something about that. Elwood City competed in that football game. If you remember what we said last week, they don't have to win, but they need to compete. This is a statement game, and they made a statement. And I'm sure Coach Bradley is really happy about what he saw. They gave up a couple big plays to Braylon Thomas, one 70-yard touchdown, one 63-yard touchdown that kind of broke their back at the end of the game. But they played Union tough and could have went into halftime winning that game. Union made a big stop inside the 5-yard line right at the end of the half. Listen, Elwood City should stand tall. It was a statement game, and they made a statement last week.
Yeah, hence referring to Elwood as climbing the ladder of respectability and making strides.
Absolutely. That's what they did last week. They played a very good Union team, and they played them pretty much even. Let me tell you something. But Union just has too many studs on that team, Ronnie. Braylon Thomas, he ran for 179 yards out of the 212 rushing yards that they had. How you stop this guy, I don't know. I watched a little bit of the game because it was on Lawrence County Sportsnet. When he gets outside of the containment, it's over. He has the speed. Nobody's catching him. And then when you add Mike Gunn, Lucas Stanley, Dane Johnke, these kids are great athletes, and Union's the real deal. But I tip my hat to Elwood City and Coach Bradley. No one saw that coming. And it was, I think, 21-21 at the half, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember 14-0 Elwood early, and then really beyond that, all I remember is 34-21 was the final in favor of Union.
Yeah, but Union broke it open late, Ronnie. They broke it open late, and Elwood played them tough. Those kids made a statement. That's what they were. That's what that game was all about, and they can stand tall because that's what they did.
That's right. Okay, that is our topic for this week. Door number 1 or door number 2. Larry passes with flying colors as he selects one from each door for the selections. We will be back here next for our schedule segment. We'll do that next right here on Gridiron.
I became an attorney because I believe in hard work, fairness, and human decency. In a word, justice. My workers' compensation clients deserve justice because in an instant, their hard work turns into hard times when they get hurt on the job. No doubt, life is tough, but so am I. I've been fighting all my life, and I'll keep fighting for you. I'm Joe George, and here in Lawrence County, it's personal.
We're back with you here on Gridiron, and this is our schedule segment. These next several games are Friday. We do have one Saturday game. We will tell you which one is the Saturday game, but first off, Friday. All of these are 7 p.m. tilts. Newcastle 0-2 at Armstrong 1-1. Larry, Newcastle trying to get off night of 11-game losing streak. Just your thoughts on where the program is right now.
I mean, again, I think a positive to be taken out of this game was the fact that they once again rushed for almost 200 yards in the game. In fact, they may have rushed for 201 yards in the game. Kayvon Gardner had another big game, 96 yards for 10 carries. He is he's an excellent high school running back. You know, he's averaging about 10 yards per carry. However, you know, the downfall last week, once again, the penalties, 12 penalties for 104 yards. And I read in the newspaper at one point they were 1st and 58 because they get a late hit penalty and then an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. It's too difficult to overcome those types of penalties. And pass defense, once again, they gave up 273 passing yards last week. So, but if you can run the ball and, you know, and again, I do believe that they ran the ball for almost 200 yards last week. You got a chance in high school football, and they do have a special running back in Kayvon Gardner, who I think can, you know, he has breakaway speed and he can turn a game around with just one play. So, but it's going to be tough. This team from Armstrong is good. It's an away game. It's an hour away, at least an hour away. So the Red Hurricane may have their hands full again on Friday.
Yeah, that's Kittanning. So Armstrong is a consolidated school that is comprised of, I believe, Kittanning and Ford City to make up Armstrong. And as you mentioned, with those yards that Newcastle had, first half, they had 21 total yards of offense, 0 first downs, and their first down was on the first play of the third quarter when Kayvon Gardner ripped off a 52-yard run down the right sideline. That's the good news. The bad news, I think they were already losing 28-0. But, you know, they fought in the second half and battled. You know, they did not quit. They could have easily, you know, tossed in the towel, certainly. So that's what you want to see. You want to see the team that you're rooting for, you know, continue to battle, continue to fight, certainly. All right, here we go. Laurel at Mohawk. In the previous segment, Larry Kelly picked Mohawk in terms of door 2 over door 1, and that was Mohawk. Both of these teams are 1-1. This also is a non-conference matchup, and this is going to be an interesting game to watch. It's a county rivalry. Again, non-conference. This is a running game versus a passing game. So, I mean, you could see this one playing out many ways. If Laurel can keep the ball on the ground and grind the clock and limit Jay Wrona's ability to have the ball, Laurel's got a chance, a fighting chance, even better than a fighting chance. However, you know, Jay Wrona and his team, they don't need much time to have quick strikes, long distance touchdowns. So, Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a professional passing game there at Mohawk, but the formula for Laurel to compete, I believe, is to be able to run the ball, control the clock, keep it out of Jay Wrona's hands. But that's going to be hard to do because their passing offense is something that is special. There's that word again. You know, he has 10 touchdown passes in 2 games. And he's thrown for 500 yards, more than 500 yards. And he has strict quick strike capabilities. I like Mohawk. Again, I think as the year goes on, Laurel's going to get better and better. But I don't think they're ready for Mohawk as of yet.
Yeah, 538 to be precise on Jay Wrona. Ambridge 1-1 at Neshannock 1-1. Lancers with a big turnaround last week with that 39-22 victory over Laurel. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. Not the fact that they won. You know, that was certainly, you know, anybody's, you know, you could have picked either team and I don't think you would have gotten an argument from anyone. But the fact that Neshannock dominated in the fashion that they did, that's quite a statement by the Lancers. And they welcome the Bridgers from Ambridge. Friday night.
They're playing at home. It's their first home game. You know, Neshannock ran the ball for 215 yards. Gino Mazzocca, young quarterback, sophomore, I believe, passed for 111 yards. He was 9 for 12. And the play that turned the game around, because it was still a ball game, and Laurel's driving. They got the ball on the 15-yard line, throw an interception, and Dom Cabellas takes it back 85 yards. That turned that game around. That game could have been a lot closer, but for that play. if Laurel goes in the score there, it turns the game around. But again, Neshannock with a young quarterback is only going to get better. If you can control the offensive and defensive line of scrimmage, you're going to win a lot of games. I like Neshannock against Ambridge next week.
Riverside 0-1 at Shenango 1-1. Wildcats got their first win on Saturday afternoon against Western Beaver, holding on for a 21-15 victory. Larry, your thoughts on what you saw from Shenango in that game? They didn't do a whole lot on 120 yards, I believe it was, total offense, but the defense forced 3 touchdowns, and that's always going to be
3 turnovers. And that was the difference in that game. You know, one of my baseball guys, he's a sophomore this year, Jacob Kemmerer. We call him JK. He's the brother of Tyler Kemmerer, who was one of the best baseball players to ever shoot up here in Lawrence County. He scored 3 touchdowns in that game. Sammy Patton's the quarterback. He plays for me too. You know, they played the type of game that they need to play to win. They forced 3 turnovers, which was the difference in that game. They held Western Beaver to 84 yards on the ground. That's good defense, but they gave up 174 through the air. That's the second game in a row that they gave up a lot of yardage through the air. They got to tighten that up. But if you can win the turnover battle 3-1, you got a pretty good chance of winning a football game. I like Shenango against Riverside, and Riverside's not bad. They're young also. My dear friend Billy Hand is in his second stint as the head coach there. But I like the Cats at home. I do. I like them at home, and I might be at that game. Watch some of my guys play.
All right, sounds good. Shenango's looking for payback, as last year Riverside got him. I believe it was 27-6 down at Riverside. Let me ask you this, Larry. You're somewhat connected with Riverside, being an Elwood City guy. Riverside's 0-1, so naturally, when everybody started the season in what's quote unquote week 0, which I hate that. It's week 1. They elect not to play. Reason? Is it numbers? And they figure, yeah, hey, let's not run the risk of getting injured, or I mean, they're one of a few precious teams probably around the state that elect not to play that first week.
It's a young team, and I think, you know, you try to use that extra week of practice to get ready. And you know, the last thing you want to do is go out there and not be ready and have your guys lose confidence. I watched a little bit of that game last week. They played tough. They were in that game at halftime, and it kind of turned in the second half. But, you know, they're young. Billy Hand's a great coach. You know, as the season goes on, they're going to get a little bit better. But I like the Wildcats on Friday night.
Probably your game of the night on Friday, Cornell 2-0 at Union 2-0, non-conference matchup, Class 1A. Any thoughts on what you're seeing from the Scotties so far?
Union is Union. They're good. They got everybody back. They got athletes, and they might have the best football player in Lawrence County and Braylon Thomas, with all due respect to some of these other great players, including Jay Wrona. This guy's just fantastic. He can throw it. He can run it. It's pretty hard to contain him. You know, they go from the shotgun. You only got to give him a little bit of space. And, you know, when he gets outside the containment, it's over. It's a touchdown. Nobody's catching him from behind. And, again, Union had 212 yards on Friday night. He had 179 of them, and 133 of them came on 2 plays. So Braylon Thomas might be the best high school football player in Lawrence County.
And lastly,
I like Union till they prove me wrong. I like Union.
Yeah, how can you not? Lastly, on Friday night at 7 p.m. is Carleton 1-1 at Elwood City Lincoln, which also is 1-1. And there's not a lot to hate about Elwood. I mean, you know, naturally, you know, this program, as we said, is on the rise. Battled Union last week. They are a respectable program right now.
Coach Bradley got something going here. Now, again, Carleton's a good football team. They're always good. They're always tough. But Union showed me something last week. And I'm sorry, Elwood City showed me something last week. And this is another game that if they win and they're playing at home, This is a confidence builder. You know, last week was a statement game where they stood up and they made a statement. Let's carry over to this week. This is a confidence game. They win this week, and they're going to have a pretty good season.
Yeah. All right. And Saturday, September 9th, Mercer 1-1 at Wilmington 1-1. This is a District 10 non-region game. Wilmington got back to 500 last week when Ben Miller scored a touchdown with 13 seconds left. They were down 14-7 going to the fourth quarter and scored 14 points in that final quarter. And Ben Miller's had two really good games so far this year. Larry Kelly, who is your leading rusher in the county this year? Braylon Thomas?
Well, yeah, Braylon Thomas, because he touches it on every play. But Kayvon Gardner is going to be right behind him. Kayvon is special.
In terms of rushing yards right now through two games, Kayvon Gardner, Braylon Thomas, or Ben Miller?
Well, I think the way you phrased that and knowing what kind of yardage Wilmington put up last week, my guess it's Ben Miller.
Ben Miller.
But Braylon and Kayvon can't be too far behind him.
Yeah, I know Braylon, I think, is 47 yards, I believe, behind. I think Ben Miller has 351, and Thomas is right behind, I think, maybe 304 or something, somewhere around there. So that's
a little bit different, though. You know, Miller's a running back, a true running back, is he not? Whereas Braylon Thomas is an option quarterback. He touches it on every play, and he has the option to run it on every play. And, you know, yeah, Braylon Thomas, as I said, in my view, from what I've seen right now, is the best high school football player in Lawrence County. And that's saying something, because there's some players out there. There, you know, and you know, Ben Miller and Jay Wrona and these guys and Kayvon Gardner are not too far behind.
Right. Okay, Larry, anything else you'd like to say about our schedule for the week, or any other thoughts that you may have?
No, it's getting exciting. I watched the podcast last week. I saw the elevator music that the director of the Groove Ship, Pete Sirianni, put on. He got to up his game. He's got to up his game a little bit. We need some better music than I thought. I was in an elevator at the old Sears and Roebuck. I mean, come on, Pete. I'm gonna give him another week to pick the music, and the next week I'm picking the music. So he's got one more shot at glory here, and then he'll get replaced. That's all. If you can't get the job done, you got to go to the bench. That's just the way it works.
Are you sure it was Sears Roebuck and not Montgomery Ward?
It might have been Montgomery Ward. I don't know. You remember when they had elevators in those stores and you would have the elevator music? That's what we had last week. We had a little elevator music to start the show. Really? Come on, man. Jeez, oh man. He got one more week. He has one more week to show up. And if he doesn't, I'm taking over.
There's probably a thing about licensing and trademarking, Larry, that what we'd like to say.
Not worried about it. I'm a lawyer. I'll fight that fight if we have to. Maybe if we run a little bit of Motown, they'll just be really happy to be associated with our podcast. And who knows? They might pay us to run that music rather than us paying them. Got to think outside of the box, Ronnie. I tell my players, you got to dare to be great. That's all. So he has one more opportunity to come up with some good music. You make sure you deliver that message.
I think you just did. All right. He's Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. Thank you for joining us here on Gridiron. We appreciate the LGKG sponsorship that they graciously afford to us. And thank you for joining us. We will see you back here next week, everybody, on Gridiron.